Would Doug, would you like to start with introducing yourself a little bit and telling the participants a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me on the call. As you mentioned, I was grad in 2019, so just a year ago. Feels like just yesterday, but 2019 summer I graduated. I was in the Bachelor of Management program, obviously, and just a general degree, so I didn't have a major. I did my internship. I did the offshore internship program, and I did my internship at Scotiabank in Halifax. I was working at their Atlantic regional office downtown, and beyond that, I mean, I chose Dell. I chose Dell just sort of off a whim. I'm from Guelph, Ontario originally, and I wanted to get out of Ontario and kind of branch out. And I'd visited the East Coast when I was younger, but I'd never been to the campus, and had never been, like I said, it'd probably been 10 years since I'd visited the East Coast, but I got accepted and I was super excited, and I just flew out and went for it. And I can say, honestly, it was one of the best decisions I've ever made. And I'm in Toronto now. I work at a wealth management firm in Toronto called Gluskin Sheff. And honestly, a little envious of anyone who's still on the East Coast, because I do wish I was still out there. But yeah, only great things to say about the management program. And to everyone on this call, I'm an open book. If you have any questions, happy to answer them. And even following the call, I can share my contact information. Happy to follow up and answer anything.
Thank you so much. So what we'd like to do, Hailey Coleman, would you like to go next?
Sure, thank you. So thanks for having me on this call. First off, I'm really excited to kind of share my experience. So I'm actually originally from London, Ontario, didn't really have any connections to Dell or the East Coast at all, didn't have any family out here, not like I think one or two people from my high school chose Dell. But when I was applying for universities, it was kind of between Vancouver or Halifax, and so I just kind of opted for Halifax and can say I had a really great experience. Like you mentioned there, I did graduate in 2017, Bachelor of Management, and I did major in Entrepreneurship and Innovation. And then since that time, I did move actually home to Ontario for about a year, and I got my real estate license and realized I just really wasn't happy there in doing that. And so I moved back to the East Coast to Halifax, and I started at one of the largest recruiting firms actually in the world. Started just as a candidate coordinator in that position for about 3 months. Then I quickly moved up to a recruiter, and then right about before the pandemic hit, I was promoted to the branch manager. So I am essentially sort of like a headhunter in Halifax. We work with all of the large top 5 banks, as well as other local companies as well. So very busy, but I do believe that the management program had a lot to do with my success. So happy to be here and happy to answer any questions, just as mentioned there from Doug.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Yeah, so Joseph, would you like to go next?
Yeah, of course. So first of all, let me say thank you guys for being on the call. So I recently just graduated from Dell in May. It was kind of a hectic time with everything being shifted online due to COVID. But I did the general major for like Doug. I didn't really know what I wanted to major in, so I just ended up going general just because I wanted to learn different streams of business instead of just kind of focusing on one. And following graduation, I actually applied to the Venture for Canada, where I'm a fellow right now. Basically helps you learn entrepreneurial skills to go work in the Canadian startup.
Awesome, thank you. Kat, would you like to go next?
I just recently graduated in May, although it doesn't really feel like it. So I started university in 2016. I ended up doing a 5-year degree. So I started in arts my first year, and then I switched to management kind of halfway through my second semester. I originally thought I wanted to do arts with a minor in commerce, but quickly kind of changed my mind and wanted to just full on go into business. So I am originally from northern British Columbia, and when I was deciding on universities, it was kind of between Saskatchewan and Halifax, and I decided on Halifax because I have family there and I wanted to branch out as well, like Doug. So I didn't major in anything because I started a year late in my degree, so I would have tacked on an extra year, which ended up happening anyways. But I was in the same internship year as Doug, but I started my internship 4 months late. So I started in September rather than May, and I did a year-long internship as well. So I worked at the Dalhousie University Environmental Health and Safety Office doing occupational health and safety. And yeah, now I'm pursuing a master's degree in occupational health and safety. So yeah.
Well, thank you everyone. For anyone who's just joining us a bit, yeah, welcome to the event. We just did some introductions and we're going to jump into some questions. We actually have 2 in the chat, so I feel like we should go into those just first off, and then we'll jump into some that were submitted. The first question was, what were some business electives that you would recommend?
I can jump in on this one.
Yeah.
So one course that I took, it was like a joint commerce and management course. So you had to apply to it, and basically it was like international marketing, I think it was. And basically you apply to this course, and they select 4 management and 8 commerce students, I think. And this course was held in the month of August, and basically it was completely funded by a grant. You pay $500 and you got to spend 2 weeks in Halifax, 1 week in Toronto, or 1 week in Halifax, 1 week in Toronto, and 2 weeks in Israel, kind of focusing on international marketing and stuff like that. It was really cool. It was a super cool experience. So I would definitely recommend.
Right. One I would love to recommend as well is I do come from a family business in London, Ontario, but I did opt to take some family enterprise courses, and then from there, I was offered a spot at the University of Vermont for a case competition that we did there. So I got to fly to Vermont with a couple other classmates. We did do quite a bit of practicing, and we actually came 3rd, and theirs was universities from all over the world. So we were really, really thrilled. So that was a great opportunity that I had just from a course that I ended up taking as an elective.
Yeah. Any other suggestions, or we got some other questions? So the next question we had was, Mohammed wanted to know, what were you working as at Scotiabank?
I guess that's me for my internship.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we want to kind of jump into ways of obtaining internships and job search and that after. To answer the question directly, I was an analyst at their head office for retail banking in Halifax. So I was working directly with all their executives who kind of run retail banking for the region. It was a super cool position. I was kind of a jack of all trades. So if they came to me and said, we want to run an analysis on client surveys to kind of determine which branches are underperforming or doing really well, I would do analysis like that. And then I was doing some other work, marketing and event related. I got to travel a little bit around the province and go to some different things that were Scotiabank sponsored. And then beyond that, doing some other work related to kind of accounting, financial statement analysis for the branches to cut costs and that kind of thing. So those were kind of my 3 main projects that I worked on. Really cool position though.
That's great. Thank you. Yeah, the next question, I don't know if it'd be more of it's about honor courses for undergraduates and our faculty. Maybe more of a question for undergraduate advising, but everyone knows information on that. Okay, no worries. Yeah, definitely. For Amir, who put the question in, check out undergraduate advising. I don't know if we have a link to their website at all, but they'll be able to answer any questions about if there's any honor courses. Yeah.
On the subject of undergraduate advising, something about the Rose School of Business is kind of unique, and I don't know if this actually exists across campus or not, but we have advisors who are stationed in the building. It's slipping my mind what floor it's on. I should know because I've been there so many times. But they're really, really great, and it's pretty easy to get an appointment. You can just drop in. I guess things are a little different now with school online, but hopefully everyone's back to status quo soon, but it actually is amazing. Like we have resources management, career services, and then just across the hall, we have undergraduate advising and anything you need if you're switching majors or just kind of debating what classes to take or trying to understand what requirements you need for a degree. They're an awesome resource, so don't be afraid to use them.
The question we had was, the next one was, is there any GPA booster courses that you can recommend? So maybe a course that was really fun, maybe not too challenging or anything like that. If anyone has any suggestion.
Yeah, so in my last year, I had a lot of open courses to take because I didn't choose a major. So I took beginner guitar, which was a 2-part class. And I took Introduction to Reading and Writing Music. It was also quite easy. And then there's other ones like Human Sexuality. People really like that one. Yeah, there's a lot of cool courses that you'll be able to find for sure.
I got one in my second year. I ended up taking a class for my writing credit called The Vampire on the King's campus, and that was actually kind of interesting because you got to read Bram Stoker's Dracula. You have to like write a little essay and kind of read some short stories on it, so it was kind of cool. So that was a fun course, and it wasn't too challenging either.
Yeah, I personally, as an Imagine student, I remember I did a course last year in the history of Central America, and it was really interesting. And there was no exam; it was just 2 papers, and a really fun course. But of course, all that changes and subject to change. But some of the history courses are really fun to check out because you get to learn a lot that you just never knew, and it's just really fun. And they're really passionate, so it's really great.
This is maybe a broader, kind of higher level piece of advice on this subject, but I found for myself anyway, I always did the worst GPA or grade wide in courses that I was trying to take just to get a really good mark. I find try to select something that you're interested in, and even if it's a bit more of a challenging course, if you're engaged in it and you're actually going to class and kind of doing all the work and doing the readings and stuff because you're interested in it, 100% of the time I've done a lot better in those kind of courses than trying to pick something that is hardly like a bit of an easier syllabus or something like that. So that would be my piece of advice on that.
I do second that as well.
I agree. Yes. Yeah. Picking courses that picking courses out of the faculty that might be open electives that are just like, wow, that's really interesting. Like I'm learning guitar, and just something that you're gonna be really interested in. I think will definitely help your engagement and how much work put into the course and everything. Yeah, definitely. Well said, Doug. I think the next question we had was any advice or views on student exchanges. I don't know if anyone did a student exchange.
I didn't do one, but I do regret it. So I would recommend it. I think just at the time I was involved in quite a few things, but what a great opportunity to be able to travel. I mean, especially, if you're going somewhere that is close proximity to other places, what a great opportunity to travel and work on your degree at the same time. So I didn't do it, but I do regret it.
I had my best friend do it. He went to Spain for a semester, and then he toured Europe after that. And he said it was probably the best thing he's ever did. So that was definitely my regret as well, Hailey, is I didn't do one.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I know a lot of people who go, like, it's just an amazing experience, and they learn a lot. And yeah, it's a really amazing opportunity. I know personally, trying to fit in. It really is good to go sit down with your advisor and really figure out and kind of map out where your degree is, because making sure you have time for if you want to do an internship and a major, and just making sure it all works out and planning ahead so you can definitely take advantage of that. It's great. Any other questions? Some of the questions that we got submitted beforehand was, did you know what you wanted to major in beforehand, and what kind of career did you want coming into your university, and did it change?
I can talk on that a little bit. So I actually started out in arts with the idea of pursuing architecture, and I did that for a little bit, and I just got to the point where I was like, no, I can't do this. So I ended up going and talking to the advisors, and I debated switching into the commerce or the management program, and eventually ended up going into management. But along the way, it was a little bit difficult because I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. and I was didn't want to commit myself to a certain industry right away because I was still unsure. So I kind of went back and forth a little bit. I think I do operations, HR, accounting, but eventually I ended up going with management and doing a general degree. And funny enough, I'm kind of in an entrepreneurial program right now. So that's kind of my journey a little bit. Took some bouncing back and forth. So my advice is if you don't know what you want to do right away, it's okay to kind of experiment in different fields and kind of see what you like and what you enjoy. Because at the end of the day, that makes the big difference, because you don't want to be in something for the next 40 years that you don't like going to, right? So find something that you enjoy and just roll with it.
Mm-hmm. And I would add, sorry, with my work experience, I don't think anyone goes into their undergrad thinking that they want to be a headhunter or work in HR, or not a lot. And so I just kind of took all the opportunities that were available to me. I kind of had a direction in where I wanted to go, and that's why I did choose to major in entrepreneurship, and given that my family is in that business as well. But you know, just being open to lots of different opportunities that come your way in university. There are a ton that Dell has to offer, so definitely take advantage of those.
Yeah, definitely. So a question we just got popped up in the chat was, do you recommend any particular semester for student exchange?
Typically it's sometime in your third year, but that's definitely something to talk with your advisor about to make sure that they can plan it out for you. But I think most of the time, like depending on whether you do an internship or not, it would be in your third year.
I do know there's more flexibility versus the commerce program with the co-op. It's a little bit more, a little more complicated to figure out, but there's a little bit more flexibility in management when it comes to finding that semester that works. Any suggestions for a summer semester? Did anyone do summer semester?
Yeah, I actually did a summer semester. I did it at Ryerson. I took a couple finance classes there. Would recommend. I really enjoyed it. You know, in a summer semester, at least there, it was only about 2 months, and my courses I did check beforehand, but they did transfer over. So it's a good way to kind of have a little bit of a summer, but still be able to work and do some courses as well.
Yeah, it's a great time to take some courses if you can. Always can take an open elective, or if you're on your internship, you will most likely be taking at least one course over your summer as well, which I just completed, just finished up. What were any strategies you suggest for finding employment or finding an internship wherever people are going to their degree?
I can jump in on this one. So my recommendation is like apply for everything. Like go to all of the meet and greets, go to all of the networking events, apply for everything. Because you never know where like your connections are going to come in handy. So the more you have, the easier it's going to be. Hopefully. For me personally, I was already working as a student at the office, and then I kind of just like developed my own internship, which was, it's not as common as like applying to jobs, but there's definitely good resources once you kind of start that job search to apply to different jobs, go to different events, and MCS will definitely make sure you have all the tools to secure an internship.
Yeah, I think also to add to that, I did quite a bit of informational interviews. I heard that from an upper year student, so I would just reach out to, you know, people that were in a career that I was interested in, and just ask to, you know, meet for a coffee or have a virtual coffee or phone call, whatever that was. And that allowed me a couple things. One, people love talking about themselves, so it was great to just learn about them, because that's really what I wanted to know. And two, you know, you can get the good, the bad, the pros and cons. People, you know, are really open in those conversations and really love to help students. So just going out on a limb, the more you do, the more comfortable you are. And it also prepped me for interviews. You know, I wasn't as nervous for interviews post-grad because I had a lot of experience with my informational interviews.
Definitely. Informational interviews are so helpful, and to get some more resources on them, check out Management Career Services, because I remember they give a lot of resources and different pamphlets. They'll sit down with you and really help you get comfortable doing informational interviews, because they are a really great thing. Yes, yeah, definitely. Do you have any suggestions for being more involved with discussions in classes? like being more involved and participating in classes? Does anyone have any?
Definitely be as involved as you can when in terms of like discussions in classes. Like, you're going to be far better off if the professor knows who you are. So especially in your first year of classes, you're going to have some pretty large classes, like 200 people. And it gets smaller as the years go on. Like in your fourth year, you'll have pretty small classes, but still definitely speak up and don't be afraid to speak up.
Yeah, that's great.
Sorry.
Would you say something good?
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, I think a big part of the whole university experience, especially in your first couple years, but all the way along is just getting out of your comfort zone. That was kind of a big thing for me all around. So if you're someone who is nervous or doesn't really like speaking out in front of people, or public speaking, or networking, or whatever it may be, I think going in the management program, being at Dell, overall is just such a great opportunity to improve on so many skills and get out of your comfort zone. And I think going in with that mindset and just maybe saying, hey, this isn't really something that I want to do, but I'm going to put my hand up and just answer a question or ask a question or whatever it may be. And odds are, if you're thinking something, it's going to get asked in the next couple minutes, or someone else beside you probably wishes it got asked. So there are no stupid questions. And I would mirror that point as well about kind of building a relationship with your professors and your classmates as well. And just being engaged in class is a great way to do that.
Yeah, that's great. One of the questions was, is anyone planning on doing an MBA after management? Right.
Definitely opposed to it.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
Dell's kind of unique in the way that they offer their MBA program, because they let you kind of enter it right after your undergraduate degree, whereas most schools require you to have some kind of practical experience. So yeah, maybe in a few years, but not right away.
Definitely, yeah. No, yeah. I do know a lot of management students do end up doing the MBA program right after they graduate. That's I've heard that one and heard that one a lot, actually. A lot of my classmates did end up doing that route. Yeah. So another one of our questions that was submitted was, are there any business elective courses that you would recommend versus like they're actually inside the faculty? Sorry.
That are outside the faculty or inside?
Inside the faculty. So I know we had that first question about like any elective, but is there any electives inside the program, like in business? I know we talked about the family enterprise, but is there any other courses you would suggest inside?
I think my favorite course ever was comm or management. I think it's a split as well. 3309 with Scott Comer. It's management skills development. I hope he's still teaching that, because he's an amazing guy, and that course is great. And that kind of feeds in a little bit to what I was saying about getting out of your comfort zone. It's a course kind of all about you, a lot about learning a lot about yourself and developing skills inside the classroom. And he has a really great dynamic way of teaching that course. So I would recommend that. I'm not sure what the earliest is you can take it. Again, that would be an advising question, but definitely take that course.
Yeah, one that I really enjoyed, well, there's two, same prof, but it's logistics and there's also transportation. Those ones were ones that were kind of electives to me, but still work towards my entrepreneurship major. And those were great courses, and you're able to do a couple case competitions off of them. So I ended up doing a couple JD Irving case competitions because of those courses. So I would recommend those as well. I think they're third, fourth year classes.
Okay. Another question we had was, what level of preparation is required to be successful in this field? I feel like the question can be applied to all the kind of like a general field in management. But is there any skills or things you learned that you felt like were really successful, that were necessary for success? It's okay.
I can jump in. At least the group projects and working on teams was something that was really great about that, and just getting out of your comfort zone was something. A lot of presentations, a lot of group work, a lot of teamwork. So I really benefited from that for sure.
Did you feel like, were there any like societies or case competitions or opportunities abroad that you felt were really important?
Yeah, I was on the Dalhousie Management Society all my 4 years, and that was incredible. A lot of connections, a lot of ways to meet people. Yeah, I would really recommend. There's so many, but I loved Management Society, but definitely find one that you're interested and passionate about, because there's lots of opportunities.
Definitely. We have another question about electives. It's, what would you recommend for first years? Is there any first year electives that you remember that were really good, because they're just entry ones?
I think you have to take a science with management. So if you're not kind of keen on like biology or chemistry, I'd recommend psychology. It's really interesting, and the prof who teaches it is really cool.
I recommend SAS 1000. It actually counts as your writing credit, and I took it in first year. It's 6 credits, so it's a little bit of a bigger course, but it's a really, really great intro course, and it's like for first year students, and you learn a lot. It's a really great one. And so how does it feel being a Dell graduate now, and why did you, I know some people answered this question earlier, but why did you choose Dalhousie?
I can start. Oh, go ahead, Doug.
Yeah, so what I would say, how does it feel being a Dell grad is awesome. I think especially for me being back in Ontario now, there are a lot of us here in the city in Toronto, a lot of my grade or my cohort anyway, so lots of friends around, which is great, but at the same time, there's not a huge volume of Dell grads in the area, so overall I would say, I don't know the breakdown, but I don't run into them too often, so it is unique. The school has a great reputation, so whenever I mention that I went to school there, it's always a talking point for sure. And what was the second half of that question, sorry?
It was, why did you choose Dell, and how does it feel to be a graduate?
Oh, right. Yeah, I think I mentioned why I chose it, but just for the new experience, and as I've been saying, kind of the theme the whole time, just get involved and get out of your comfort zone, and that's kind of what my university experience was all about, and that's why I chose Dell.
Yeah, and I think I'm very proud to be a Dell graduate. I think it's really helped in my career as well. Now that I'm back in Halifax too, a lot of our clients and candidates and that sort of thing are Dell alumni. So it's a really good talking point, and we share a lot in common. Coming from the same university, maybe know the same people, have a similar network. So it's definitely benefited me being here.
Okay. Would anyone else like to jump in, or we can move on to the next question? All right, so one of our questions was actually, what's the big differences between the commerce and management program? So that was an interesting question.
So management is a lot less structured. So commerce, you kind of have like set work terms. You have 3 set work terms, and they kind of like intertwine between your like studies, whereas like in management you don't have to do a work term if you don't want to. You can just do straight studies. Like you kind of have a lot more flexibility within the program, so that's kind of a big difference. A lot of the courses are similar, but you'll still be kind of divided, so you'll both have like communications courses and organizational behavior, but yeah, and some are mixed. In your first couple of years you'll have some mixed courses, but
definitely. I always remember, I feel like it's a question about what the difference is a lot from like peers, and be like, oh, what's the difference in commerce and management? And always having like a little bit pitch ready to explain the difference between the 2 programs. Because I feel like, again, for the first couple of years, you do have quite a bit of mixed courses, and you also will have some mixed course with computer science students. and recreational management as well. So that's also a mix within the program. Another question that we have was, oh, this is a good one. Is it better to buy textbooks before or after you were given the syllabus?
After.
Yeah, after.
Yeah. Do you have any?
Maybe a trick question, but try to buy your textbook secondhand is what I would say. If you're trying to save money, I mean, there are courses where the textbook is definitely needed and you get it from the bookstore, and that's just the way it is. But it's reality that they're expensive. So if you can find a different way to do it, that's great. There's also a lot of online textbook options, I think, that are usually a lot more affordable. And if you're fine with looking at your laptop for that, which I did often, then that's a good option as well.
Definitely, and
for your students, but sometimes you won't need your textbooks.
Yeah.
So ask.
Yeah, some things that I've done in the past was we actually shared textbooks with friends. Like physically, like we both had the book and we would just study together. So it just made sense to share the cost of it. That was something we did up here. Another thing you can do as well is check with your professor to see if your textbook is available at the library, because sometimes the library will actually keep a few of the textbooks on hold, like a digital or physical copy. I didn't learn that till upper year, but you can actually sometimes access that. That's not a guarantee or anything, but it's something to like ask definitely of your professor. This is a great question. How did people find their part-time job experiences, and was it like easy to manage time and classes and life and everything? So I think that's a great one. Great question.
Yeah, I can answer that. So I worked part-time throughout my entire undergrad. I probably did about 15 to 25 hours per week while doing full-time studies. You had to be very time disciplined. Like you had to very much kind of be very, very well organized and know what you need to get done on a certain day. Like there was no time to really procrastinate. It's doable, but it's definitely not easy. Yeah, that'd be my advice would just to be kind of try and plan ahead as best as possible. If you have a couple free days, try and get as much work done in those free days before you have to start working again, because I've hit the point where I had everything kind of collapse on top of me and I just didn't perform the best I could in academically and work wise. So just try and stay on top of it best you can.
Yeah, I had a job with intramural, so through Dell, for second, third, and fourth year, and I really enjoyed that because the beauty of working, at least with intramurals, was that it was set times every week. I knew when I started, I knew when I ended, so it was really easy to kind of plan around that. But definitely, I do agree. You do need to make sure you're kind of taking away that buffer room with a part-time job. But I did love it. I enjoy being busy, and I think I did really well in my courses when I was busier. Sometimes I didn't have a lot going on. You would leave it to last minute, but you couldn't when you had a part-time job. So I agree. It's a good opportunity, but you do need to be careful of time management.
Definitely. How did you find, do you remember in your first semester any things that you learned about time management, the first time you had midterms or anything that you'd give advice to anyone going for that now?
Yeah, it's a learning curve for sure. It's a learning curve for everyone. University, when everyone's starting, no one knows what they're doing. So find what works best for you. I will say just start by being organized and being on top of your work, however you do that best, whether it's, printing all your syllabuses, keeping them close by, or having, a calendar, agenda, that sort of thing. Just finding a way that works best for you. It might take a couple tries at it, but start out by being pretty organized. That will serve you well in the long run.
One thing I did, if it's helpful for anybody, was I took my Outlook calendar and I put in every single thing I had due in that calendar, and I set the reminders to remind me 2 days before it was due. So if anything did kind of slip from my grasp, I had those 2 days to kind of try and get it done. Because the last thing you need is to do like a 5,000 word paper a day before it's due.
Good suggestions. Definitely. Yeah, and Outlook calendar works well because it gives you those like kind of reminders as it leading up to the event. Definitely, if you did forget something, then it'll help you remember in advance. Yeah, so Lori just posted a question. If anyone was doing classes during the winter, how was their experience doing online courses?
I didn't find it too bad. I mean, it was only like the last month, so we didn't have much more to do, but still having kind of like set deadlines was more motivating. Whereas like I have taken courses through other universities that had like a really flexible schedule, so I could like choose when to submit my assignments, and those courses are a lot more difficult because you kind of have to make sure that you're motivating yourself to submit these things on a timely manner. So.
Yeah, and like for me personally, all my classes were pre-recorded, and you had to kind of watch them and do quizzes after. And what I found was I would just pause it every couple minutes to get up and do something. So you kind of really got to have that focus to kind of sit down and watch it till completion. I found that was probably the biggest challenge, was like trying to stay focused while I was at home, because there were so many different things going on. So it's always probably best to find like a quiet space so that you can focus and there's like minimal distractions going on.
Definitely. I think it's definitely important if you're taking, I believe it's asynchronous classes. I'm going to butcher that pronunciation. But the classes that you don't actually have, they're not actually happening in real time. So probably putting those into your schedule, maybe an Outlook calendar, like Joseph suggested, and making time for those, and trying to find a distraction-free time to actually get through the whole thing. Yeah, that's great. Yeah. I think another question that we had was, did you engage with, how did you find your engagement with MCS, and did you attend any workshops or seminars that helped you prepare for like your internship or looking for jobs post-grad?
So I actually did my 8th month co-op at MCS. So I kind of worked right in the office, kind of helping them plan some of the events and actually attending them myself. And before that, I did attend a few, and it was definitely helpful. When I first applied to MCS, I actually reached out to a person that held the position before me and kind of spoke to her about it, and she kind of gave me the layout of it, and I just kind of went from there with it.
That's great. Yeah. So how did you find balance? I guess we talked about a bit. This question's already been kind of covered, but how do you balance like work and classes? So maybe we'll go into another question. So why did you decide to do an internship as a part of your program?
For me, I kind of just valued the skills that I knew that I would learn. Just kind of having like a time to apply the skills that you're learning in your degree in like a practical sense. It's super helpful, and I would definitely recommend to everyone, because it's like you're coming out with kind of a step, you're coming out with an advantage against anyone else who just graduated without doing an internship, because you already have 8 months or a year of practical like working experience, right? So and you get paid for your internship, so it's definitely a great option to consider.
I was about to say the money is nice as well. It's a nice addition to learning the skills that you need for the workforce.
How did you find, was there any experiences or certain skills that you found were really helpful that you learned from your internship?
Yeah, I actually ended up, I did a couple projects analyzing data and kind of constructing graphs to kind of like tell a story with it. Kind of similar to what Doug mentioned that he did for Scotiabank, but probably on a higher scale of what he did. But I found it was very interesting. Taught me a lot, especially taught me a lot how to use Excel, because I knew nothing before that. And now I'm kind of a little bit of an Excel whiz with it. But I found that was the only thing I kind of really took away from the internship was kind of learning that aspect, kind of the back end operations of things.
I found like communication skills as well, like getting comfortable, like reaching out to people you don't know, and then kind of advocating for yourself in a business context. Like when I started, I wasn't given a wage, I had to ask for one, and I kind of had to like advocate for myself and say why I was worth however much I asked for. Yeah.
That's really great. Did you go for any funding for your internship? Did you like have to secure any?
So I applied for government funding and we did get that. So that's like a guaranteed $15 an hour. But
Does that process have to be started at a certain point, or like is there a time?
it has to be started like a few months beforehand.
Okay.
So if that's like, if you're thinking about developing your own internship and that's something you're interested in, definitely keep an eye out for that because you'll have to be planning for that. So you'll be taking a course if you decide to do the internship program, basically in the semester before you would start. And because I started in September, I had like an extra 4 months to kind of plan for this.
So I just, for your internship, MCS does a course that they prep you for resumes and how to do job interviews and things like that, so that you do have the 4 months leading up before you, I feel like people really jump into the job search. But definitely if you're looking to secure funding and kind of make your own internship, your own placement, definitely starting as early as possible and getting that planning ahead of time. It's really great.
Is Jennifer doing still teaching that prep course?
She is, yes. I just took it in the fall.
Yeah, she's great. I was gonna say that was one of my favorite courses as well. She's awesome.
Yeah, wonderful. Yeah, no, she's great at what she does, and she's really there to help you. So if you, you'll definitely meet Jen throughout the management program for sure. And when you get there, she's always there to ask questions. And that's the thing too. There's lots of supports of finding your internship. You will have to find it on your own, but there's definitely like so many supports to really help you and prepare you for that, which Jen is a part of. Do you have anything else to, Doug? I hope I didn't cut you off or anything.
No, not at all.
Okay, good. Okay, yeah. Yeah. All right. Sounds good. Questions. Okay, this is a good question. What is important to you when looking at companies and employers, in particular to culture or what type of tasks you will be doing? So what are you kind of looking for when you start looking at job descriptions?
Yeah, I'd love to answer this one because, you know, I deal with it every day. I think something, and that it's more recent to me, is, you know, it's really a two-way street when you are interviewing and looking at different jobs. As much as, you know, they're interested in your skills and your talents, you want to make sure that, you know, the culture there is something that you're interested in, you know, that you would work well with the other people on the team. So I just think, you know, taking a really deep dive instead of, you know, apply, really make sure that the company's values align with what you're looking for.
Very well.
It goes a long way to do your research, just to make sure the company is what you want, because there's nothing worse than interviewing for a company and then they offer you the job and then you end up declining it because you no longer want it due to you not feeling it's the right fit. So definitely do the research before would be my advice, and kind of know what you're jumping into.
Definitely. Is there any advice you give to students who might be in a position where they don't have a lot of job experience out on their resume, and they're looking for part-time work or anything like in that, or looking for an internship later down the road? How can they strengthen their resume, and how can they build that with some experience on there?
Yeah, so something actually that that I got help with at Dell is they sat down and looked over my resume and we kind of built it together. And something that was added was, I think it's called relevant professional experience. So that's where I put like my VP of Finance with the Dalhousie Management Society, and that kind of really upped my resume and got me a lot of interviews because, you know, I didn't have those professional opportunities yet. By, you know, you're volunteering, you can certainly put that on there on your resume, and Management Career Services helps you kind of, you know, frame it and put it on there so that employers can understand that, you know, although you don't have the professional experience yet, you did really strive to work towards that in your undergrad.
Definitely. And feel free to check out My Career, because that's a great resource as well, looking for volunteer positions, casual work, part-time work, internships, everything. It's a really great place to check out on the web. On the My Career website. Yes, thank you so much, Nicole, for sharing that in the chat there. So another question that I had was, how do you build a network in a city that is not your home? So of trying to expand your network, if you are coming from, originally from Halifax and you're coming here, what do you suggest for people to branch out in Halifax?
So the management department will put on like a lot of events that you can attend where you get to meet different employers. And then it was previously mentioned as well doing informational interviews. So maybe if you have a career in mind, you can like look them up on LinkedIn and reach out to them, and they'll probably be happy to meet with you. Most people are happy to meet with students. So just like taking those steps to develop your network that way, and then also making sure you have a good LinkedIn profile. So the management department also offers LinkedIn like workshops so you can work on your profile and making sure you're adding connections that way.
Definitely.
Another thing to do is join the Halifax Chamber of Commerce if you have the time or are interested in that. I think I did that in my 3rd year, maybe. It's super reasonable for students. I'm not going to quote the fee that I paid, but I think it's like $40 a year or something. And they had events going on like almost every week or bi-weekly. You just go to these networking events, pretty much rooms full of all potential employers. So if you're looking for an internship position or a summer job or whatever it may be, or post-grad, there's a lot of great resources there. And I love having students, so.
Definitely. Yeah, and they do offer a student rate. I don't remember what the rate is either, but there's definitely like they have student offers for the Chamber of Commerce, so definitely check them out. And we got a question in the chat that says, "How did you find Halifax as a city?"
I think anyone that you ask will love Halifax. I can't find anyone that doesn't. It's the best. It's a local feel, but a big city. I mean, I'll let the others answer as well. It's incredible.
Yeah.
I only have good things to say. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I feel like Halifax is very much a university city. Huge student population. Yeah, and it's right by the ocean. There's a lot of things to do. So,
it's also like split up into 2 smaller cities because there's Dartmouth and then Halifax, which are both really close, but it has like everything you need.
Mm-hmm. And I will say too, there's events all the time that cater to so many interests. So really there's like sub-communities, within the communities. So it's really great, if you find a really good neighborhood, there's lots of things to do here. You will never be bored.
One question we got to was, how did you find making friends and, building your own social network when you came to university?
I would recommend residence. It's a good way to make a lot of friends kind of quickly. And then also just join societies, get involved. It's a great way to meet people with similar interests.
And there's a lot of different societies in the row. The main ones you'll hear about are commerce and management, but there's a ton of other societies as well, for every interest in different groups and everything. So it's really good to check that out as well. A question that we got, how did you overcome any struggles or challenges that you faced, maybe in a particular course, maybe it was a work term, or maybe it was, throughout your academic experience, and what resources did you use? And that's a big question.
Yeah, I'm just kind of looking back on first year. There's no way to sugarcoat it. It's a big transition from high school to university. So like I said, staying organized. I think there was the first year econs that just so happened to be right around your midterms, right around Thanksgiving. So you go home in your first Thanksgiving because you haven't seen your family in a couple months. Then you got a big, massive test. And so I think a lot of people are stressed out about that. Just kind of know, you will get through it. Take advantage of any additional supports that the class may offer, as well as friends, study together if you're able to, study on Zoom if you're able to, whatever that looks like now. Just know that everyone else is going through a struggle, whether it be the econ class or something else for someone. So just know that there are the supports and you're not alone in whatever you may be struggling with there.
I probably used, so in the Killam library on the first floor, there's the Writing Center. I probably used them quite a bit in my first 2 years, just because English isn't my first language. And I'm not the best with grammar sometimes, so I always went to them kind of within those 2 years to kind of fix up my papers. So they're a really good resource too, if you're not a strong person typing out the paper.
Definitely. So so we only have a couple more minutes now. So I'm going to before I ask the last question, I'm just going to address the last question in the chat, and then we'll do our wrap up. So it was just about campus housing or off-campus housing. Which would you recommend, and how was your experience with them?
In your first year, I definitely recommend on-campus housing. It's probably the best way to make friends. There's a ton of events going on campus, and it's nice to be really close to your classes. I was in like an apartment style residence my first year, and I kind of wish I was in a traditional residence, just because I feel like there was a lot more people to kind of communicate with rather than just having like my 3 roommates and that was it. Yeah, but it was a good experience regardless.
Yeah, so if anyone has anything else to add, but I would love to jump to the last question that we had, which was what advice would you give to students kind of based on if you knew then what you know now, what advice would you give to your younger self? Any advice like for students now, incoming or current students?
I think.
Sorry, you
go
go,
ahead.
Hailey. No,
Okay.
you go, Hailey.
I think something just to reiterate and keep in mind is that no one knows what they're doing. It's new for everyone. So, it might feel awkward, or, you're really nervous or putting yourself out there. Well, everyone's doing it anyway. So just go for it, join societies, do some interviews, that sort of thing. No one knows what they're doing.
Mine's kind of similar to Hailey. Like, don't discouraged if things don't initially work out. As long as you work hard and you're kind of smart about it, you'll get there.
Also, I would just say don't count yourself out for opportunities. Like, don't just not apply because you're like, oh, well, they're not going to pick me anyways. Like, whether it's scholarships or jobs or whatever it is, just apply. Give yourself benefit of the doubt. You'll be surprised.
Probably be mirroring other points, but just saying get involved, I guess, would be my biggest piece of advice, and to do it early. I think I had the benefit in my university career to get involved in a lot of stuff, but I feel like I did it in the latter half of my degree. There's a lot of benefits to getting involved in stuff in first and second year, obviously through the people you meet and just things you learn, experiences, whether it literally could be anything like society involvement, could be a job, could be volunteering, could be anything. But just get involved, do something other than just class and kind of social if you can fit it in. And I think that's great. My only other piece of advice would be something we did say earlier, but get to know your profs. Coming out of high school, it's not really cool to be friends with your teachers or whatever, but when you're in university, it's cool to be friends with your profs, and it benefits you a lot. All around, really, and the profs at Dell are really great, and they're there for you. And I guess answering a question before, kind of talking about if you're struggling with something, rely on those resources and kind of build those relationships with professors or superiors at work if you're on an internship or a co-op, and just be open and reach out to them. If you're struggling with something, just let them know. And I would say 99% of the time, they're there to help you, not to hurt you. So that would be my advice.
Definitely. That's wonderful advice. Thank you so much for taking the time today for the alumni to come and speak and share all their wisdom that they have and all this great insight. So thank you so much. And thank you for all the students who came to participate. Hopefully we answered any of the questions that you have. This is recorded, so definitely anyone will be able to watch it afterwards and go and look at the questions that they had missed the event. And so if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us, management faculty. We'll be able to direct you in the right direction if we're not able to answer your question. That's what we're here for. We're here to support you. And yes, thank you so much once again for the wonderful alumni for taking all the time. Well, applause, but for you guys. So thank you so much.
Also, just a note, feel free to add us on LinkedIn and reach out if you ever have any questions. We're happy to.
Fantastic. All right. Well, thank you so much. All right. Everyone have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you.
You too.
Thank you.